There doesn't seem to be as much pressure. Do you want him to just step aside, get himself out of the way?
I think he's got absolutely no chance. I think he's going to get smashed to pieces.
Tyson Fury is sending a serious warning to Jake Paul, making it clear that Anthony Joshua is on another level. He explains that Anthony Joshua is a complete machine who will destroy anyone in his path. For Jake Paul, it would be far safer to pull out of this fight before he faces a humiliating defeat. Tyson Fury's words leave no doubt. Anthony Joshua is not just tough, he is unstoppable.
Worst night ever and still beat Jake Paul. He could probably turn up with broken ribs, a broken left hand, 2 left feet, he's closed on back to front, and with the flu, and then still beat Jake Paul.
Tyson Fury is clearly warning Jake Paul to pull out, as the contract delay shows Anthony Joshua is patient but unstoppable. Fury's tone makes it obvious. Anthony Joshua is a machine, and Jake Paul is risking a disaster if he goes ahead.
That's come and gone. It's gone past 5 o'clock Monday. No contract.
John Fury is not holding back as he blasts Jake Paul, insisting that Anthony Joshua's power is ridiculous and unmatched. He makes it clear in a blunt, no-nonsense style that any other outcome would be completely fixed. John Fury is warning everyone that Jake Paul has no chance.
They can't finish. Anthony Joshua could knock Jake Paul out with his dick. So if it goes any other way, you know.
Eddie Hearn, professional boxing promoter, acknowledges Jake Paul's dedication and improvement in the ring. But he is clear that even with effort, Jake Paul is nowhere near the level of Anthony Joshua. Eddie emphasizes that Anthony Joshua's skill and experience make this fight overwhelmingly one-sided, despite Jake Paul's supposed progress.
Such an easy night's work, and it would be massive. And Jake's smart. Look, I know that we have our back and forth. Jake's improving as a fighter, and you have to respect the fact that he's dedicated not just to the business, but also to the hard graft of boxing. I still don't think he's particularly good, but he's a decent, some level.
Anthony Joshua, focused and disciplined, explains that his only concern is executing his job in the ring. He shows relentless professionalism, leaving no room for distractions or excuses. Anthony Joshua's mindset demonstrates why he is a true champion and why Jake Paul will struggle against such a disciplined fighter.
I have to do my job. It's the only thing that's in my mind right now, and there's no extra time in boxing. Yeah, so yes, I have to do my job, and that's what I'm just thinking about.
Eddie Hearn, professional boxing promoter, expresses disbelief over Jake Paul pulling out of the fight. He highlights the financial stakes involved, showing that the decision is absurd and disappointing. Eddie Hearn frames the situation as a missed opportunity for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua, underscoring the mismatch in skill and reputation.
To pull out with all the money that's been spent and for squeaky bum time is not the way forward. And I think Jake Paul's game.
Tony Bellew, former world champion, casts doubt on the Jake Paul fight actually happening. He emphasizes that Anthony Joshua's power is immediate and overwhelming, pointing out that even a light touch from Anthony Joshua is enough to threaten any opponent. Tony's observation confirms that Jake Paul is far out of his depth.
He doesn't believe that the Jake Paul fight's going to actually happen?
I'm not really sure. I know now.
Tom Little, analyst, cautiously acknowledges Jake Paul's ability, but he makes it clear that Anthony Joshua presents an entirely different challenge. He predicts that Jake Paul will face the limits of his skills and may even quit under pressure. The commentary reinforces Anthony Joshua's superiority and Jake Paul's inexperience at the elite level.
I'm not saying he can't fight, I'm not saying he's rubbish, I'm not saying he's useless, but we will see how good he is. And if I'm right in what I'm saying, he'll quit.
David Haye, former world champion, compares Jake Paul directly to Anthony Joshua, highlighting the vast physical and skill gap. He stresses that even at full effort, Jake Paul can only reach a fraction of Anthony Joshua's level. David's insight shows why Anthony Joshua dominates the conversation and why the fight was heavily in his favor.
Jake Paul can come 15-20% in regards to Anthony Joshua. He's a completely different specimen. Look, you'll see what it looks like when they stand next to each other.
Joe Rogan is emphasizing the sheer threat Anthony Joshua poses to Jake Paul. He paints Anthony Joshua as a one-punch knockout artist whose power is legendary and uncompromising. The way Anthony Joshua dismantled Francis Ngannou serves as a warning that Jake Paul is completely outclassed. Rogan captures the danger in even stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua and illustrates that any attempt by Jake Paul to challenge him would be reckless. Anthony Joshua's combination of precision, experience, and raw power makes him far beyond the reach of a YouTuber stepping into professional boxing, leaving no room for debate.
Fight.
Yeah.
Because Joshua's going to try to make an example out of him, for sure.
And will.
I mean, Anthony Joshua is one of the biggest one-punch KO artists. What he did to Francis Ngannou, good lord.
Yes.
Johnny Nelson is highlighting that Jake Paul might be more motivated by money than competition. He points out that the big purses he earns fighting lesser opponents do not prepare him for Anthony Joshua. Nelson warns that facing Anthony Joshua would be disastrous and suggests this might be Jake Paul's final chance before a brutal reality check. Anthony Joshua's combination of size, power, and skill means that any overconfidence from Jake Paul will be brutally punished. Nelson's insight makes it clear that Anthony Joshua is leagues above Jake Paul and that this fight was never truly competitive.
Jake Paul himself might be cashing out because the big purses that he's pulling, fighting these has-beens or ex-fighters, they're dropping slowly but surely. So maybe, just maybe, this might be his last fight, getting in there with Anthony Joshua and getting knocked out.
Tony Bellew is laying out the physical reality of facing Anthony Joshua. He points out that Anthony Joshua's size, height, and weight advantage make Jake Paul's chances almost non-existent. Bellew stresses that theory means nothing until they step into the ring. But even then, Anthony Joshua's power and experience will dominate immediately. He paints Anthony Joshua as a nearly unstoppable force and makes it clear that any notion of Jake Paul competing on equal terms is absurd. The fight would be over fast, reinforcing Anthony Joshua's position as a top-tier heavyweight.
Anthony Joshua, who's now 5 inches bigger than you, maybe more, or 4 or 5 inches bigger, and about 100 pounds heavier. You just don't go from there right up to there. I don't believe it. And I won't believe it until the two of them got 10-ounce gloves on in a boxing ring. Because if Anthony Joshua puts 10-ounce gloves on and gets in a boxing ring and Jake Paul is in the other corner, this won't last long.
Anthony Joshua is showing his frustration and determination as he calls out Jake Paul for canceling the fight. His words convey a fighter who is ready to face any challenge head-on and refuses to be manipulated. Anthony Joshua's mindset demonstrates that he is in full control, focused, and mentally stronger than Jake Paul. By stating there is no dodging, he highlights Jake Paul's weakness and fear. Anthony Joshua's confidence and readiness contrast sharply with Jake Paul's indecision, making it obvious who is the dominant figure in this matchup. Anthony Joshua is not only physically superior, but mentally unshakable.
I'm gonna fight this guy. If I'm fighting that guy, I'm gonna fight that guy. There's none of this dodge him or dodge that. That's none of my business.
Logan Paul expresses shock and disbelief at Jake Paul's actions, revealing how even those close to him recognize the absurdity of pulling out against Anthony Joshua. His reaction underscores the pressure and reality Jake Paul faces, highlighting Anthony Joshua's power and reputation. Logan's genuine astonishment emphasizes that Anthony Joshua is universally respected and feared in boxing circles. This commentary adds perspective on the situation, showing that Anthony Joshua commands not just skill, but psychological dominance. Jake Paul's choice to pull out is portrayed as a desperate move against an opponent who is far beyond his capabilities.
I was the first person to see it, and I was like, dude, fuck, bro, this is wild. I can't believe this is happening. I immediately felt really bad for
Johnny Nelson is pointing out that Jake Paul's decision to pull out of fighting Anthony Joshua lacks the professionalism expected at this level. Nelson suggests there are unseen factors, but ultimately, it highlights the pressure and fear Jake Paul feels against Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's presence in the ring is so imposing that even a fighter accustomed to media attention can be forced into an unwise decision. This scenario reinforces Anthony Joshua's dominance both physically and psychologically. Jake Paul is clearly overmatched, and Nelson's observation underscores the reality that Anthony Joshua controls the narrative and the outcome even before stepping into the ring.
Should happen. This is a one-round job. Because AJ, even though he's past his best, even though he's seen better days, he throws a nice 1-2 down the middle. He's got a nice bit of distance, and fake Paul can't fight. He just can't. I don't care what anybody tells me. He can't fucking fight. He lost to Tommy Fury, for crying out loud.
Moses Itauma acknowledges that Jake Paul has made progress in boxing, yet he clearly points out that no one expects him to compete with Anthony Joshua. Itauma respects Jake Paul's work ethic, but emphasizes that Anthony Joshua's Olympic pedigree and multiple world championships place him in a completely different league. This contrast makes it obvious that even a decent YouTuber fighter is miles away from Anthony Joshua's level. The commentary stresses that Anthony Joshua's experience, skill, and power are overwhelming. And despite any praise for Jake Paul, the reality is he cannot match Anthony Joshua in a real fight, reinforcing the inevitability of Anthony Joshua's dominance.
I don't think anybody's expecting anything from Jake Paul. Like, he's fighting an Olympic gold medalist, 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. But this YouTuber, like, do you know what? You got to take your hat off to Jake Paul. He's done amazing. He's done very well. And even me, I don't think he's a bad boxer. You know, I actually think he's a decent boxer. But you're not on the caliber of obviously Anthony.
Duke McKenzie is making it clear that Anthony Joshua respects the sport and would never underestimate Jake Paul. But at the same time, Jake Paul is completely outmatched. Anthony Joshua's preparation, athleticism, and understanding of boxing make him a nightmare for any unproven fighter. McKenzie highlights the contrast between a world-class athlete like Anthony Joshua and a YouTuber stepping into the ring. Anthony Joshua's speed, power, and skill set would exploit every weakness, leaving Jake Paul vulnerable from the first bell. This commentary underscores that Anthony Joshua is methodical, experienced, and overwhelmingly superior, making Jake Paul's position in the fight untenable.
I don't think Anthony Joshua would take Jake Paul lightly in any way, shape or form, and it'd be so easy to hit. You're talking about a trained athlete against
The final section is shaping up to be explosive as Anthony Joshua stands ready to show why he is a 2-time world heavyweight champion and an Olympic gold medalist. Every expert, from Tyson Fury to Carl Froch, has highlighted the huge gap in skill, power, and experience between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. The warnings have been clear and relentless, painting Jake Paul as a fighter who is completely out of his depth. Anthony Joshua's focus, preparation, and raw talent make him a machine in the ring, capable of ending this mismatch decisively. Jake Paul's bravado cannot hide the reality that stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua would be a career-defining mistake. And even the toughest YouTuber cannot match the discipline and ferocity of a real champion. Are you backing Anthony Joshua to dominate and prove the world why he is a true heavyweight powerhouse? Or do you think Jake Paul will somehow shock everyone and pull off an impossible upset? Drop your thoughts below.